Our feature modules will retrieve GitHub repository data via a repository class that we make, rather than directly interacting with the REST API interface we just defined. This allows you to abstract the details of how you're fetching the data, so you can add things like caching or local storage loading at a later time. Create a new Android library module called repository. We'll update the versions of the new build.gradle file just like we have before. We also need to add the GitHubApi project dependency and the core Dagger dependency while we're here. Make sure to run a Gradle sync. In this new module, create a class called AppRepository. This will have an inject annotated constructor and take one constructor parameter, the GitHub API interface. Our app repository will have one function and we'll call it getTopRepos. This returns a list of repo API model, and for now, we'll just forward this function call to the GitHub API interface. Let's also add the singleton annotation to this class, since we only want one instance of this throughout the lifecycle of our app. Now, this might seem like an unnecessary abstraction right now, but this function is going to be a bit more involved once we hook up the real GitHub REST API calls. Having this extra layer of abstraction will make it so that features that use this will be separated from the changes we make to the GitHub API interface. This has more of a payoff in larger applications, but even in this small app, we'll be able to see the benefits. Let's now export the app repository from our application component. First, we need to add the repository project dependency to our app modules build.gradle file. And then in the application component, add a function to the interface that returns app repository. Similar to before, this function name doesn't matter, but it's good practice to keep it relevant. In this case, just app repository fits nicely. And what this is doing is any other components that depend on the application component will now be able to inject an app repository. If we run a build now, our generated application component is finally starting to show some meaningful code. Let's walk through this generated code in the next video.